Good day and welcome to the next presentation by Mobile Teachers Corner. My name is Ashley. I am the teacher behind Mobile Teachers Corner, and our presentation is going to be about early learning skills for young children. Just a little preview of what we're going to dive into today, the objectives of our presentation, if you will. We're going to take a look to understand what developmentally appropriate practice is. We are also going to look at ways that you can improve motor and function skills, social skills, and the arts, and work on early math, science, and literacy skills for preschool, kindergarten, whether you are homeschooling or going into private school or public school. Whether you are from the southern USA or somewhere else, you can find ways to work with your child at home and in their natural environment to build learning skills. What is developmentally appropriate practice, or DAP as my colleagues and I sometimes will shorten it to? Basically, it is practices or things that you would teach, ways that you would teach your child that is developmentally appropriate. That is, it is appropriate to the way that their brain and their bodies develop. For instance, a really quick example, a math multiplication worksheet would not be an appropriate activity for a kindergartner. Likewise, in most cases, using Play-Doh to make letters would not be appropriate for a high schooler. That's what we mean when we're talking about developmentally appropriate. It's content and activities that are appropriate for the brain and body development of a child at a given stage of life. This is something that goes into every aspect of life. That is why it is so important and probably my biggest pet peeve when it comes to teaching young children. It has to be developmentally appropriate. That is research-based. So again, excluding an extreme disability or ability case, most children and young adults, you can expect them to be able to develop on a sequential scale based on their processes in their brain, how their muscles are growing, how their strength grows, how their processing of language grows, everything. They learn these things sequentially with certain skills and understanding building on top of one another. So more on developmentally appropriate practice. Most children, like I said, they develop sequentially, but there is a wide range at when these children develop. I worked with 3 to 6-year-olds in my autistic classroom, and this is an example of a tool that we would use to assess how a student was doing in their progress over the year, beginning of the year, middle, after. And if you have a chance and you'll be able to see this on your phone or your device, you're not just listening to it, you can see that there is a band, a colored range that kind of goes over a couple of categories here. For example, since I taught 3-year-olds, let's just go with that. In our system, in this system here, 3-year-olds were the color yellow. So if little Johnny is a 3-year-old, if I'm looking at the chart, I can see, okay, little Johnny might fall somewhere between scribbling on writing and being able to do some scribbles that are kind of in a line. So it goes from scribbling with chaos and no purpose to, oh, I'm understanding that these scribbles might have a little meaning and they go a certain way. That would be developmentally appropriate writing for a 3-year-old. The 3-year-old might be a little bit under. They might not be ready to pick up and hold something with their hand yet. I had that case a lot with my autistic children. Some of them have had difficulty manipulating their writing implement. Then you've got other kids who are 3-year-olds. They may be on the way far end of this green band or this blue band even. Blue goes into kindergarten. I'm sorry, I apologize. Blue goes into 4 to 5-year-olds. They might be writing their full name. They might be writing random letters saying, that's my name. It may not be their name, but that's appropriate for them. They're understanding that these letters make up words and that these words can be written down and that those words mean something. That is developmentally appropriate practice. So in a general sense, the rest of the topic video, when I say developmentally appropriate, please keep in mind every child develops at a different pace, but generally they can all develop at the same rate. They develop, when I say that, sequentially. They develop sequentially. You don't go from scribbling to writing your full name most of the time. There are always exceptions, but please remember when I say developmentally appropriate practice or DAP, I am always referring in my mind to this rainbow, to this spectrum of this is the way I can expect my child to develop before or even during they're getting preparation for school, and then to build on those skills. If you have any more questions about how to notice that, I don't have access to this assessment tool anymore, but it was a fantastic tool. I really enjoyed it. I can absolutely take the time to explain more in depth to you what I'm talking about when I mean the scale of development and the scale of building on what you know. Off of my tangent, there is a little bit of visual for understanding developmentally appropriate practice and how children develop at different stages, and that is totally appropriate. So the first slide I want to get into, the area of growth, is social and emotional learning. This is not a political topic. This is a developmentally appropriate way to teach. And this, I do agree that this is something that parents should be working on every moment of the day. Social and emotional learning goes on all day, every day in the household, but it also goes on in school. And the teaching is different based on the setting. You act differently at home than you do at school. And this is something that has been taught in preschools and kindergartens for a very long time. And if you're not continuing to teach these kinds of things, honestly, that's why I feel like there are so many behavioral problems in schools right now, is because parents don't have the time, and then teachers don't have the time sometimes. It's not always built into the curriculum. I could get on a really long train about this. Let's just dig into social and emotional learning. Basically, these are skills that are taught in the natural environment. That may be your home, that may be your daycare, the library, the playground, school. Any routine location you are, there's a certain set of general societal rules that are acceptable and not acceptable. And we as adults have to know how to navigate that. And as children, they have to know how to navigate that appropriate to their age. So for adults, it may be, not yelling curse words in a certain environment, or making sure that we're fully clothed in a public place. For children, it might be making sure we keep our shoes on in the libraries because it's a public place, or making sure that, we're not talking out of turn in school, making sure we know that we can't lash out with our hands if we're mad. What are some strategies that I can use to do that? So basically, some basic social emotional learning that can be taught at home, at school, in any interaction with a child or even adult, sad to say. You want to work on appropriate eye contact. That is different between cultures, between generations. You know what is appropriate for you and your family and your child. So teach them that. Teach them that proper level of eye contact and engagement. Speaking volume is important. Inside voice, outside voice. I see big problems with that sometimes in places that are respectfully inside voice places. So volume regulation. When do I need to yell? When do I not need to yell? Learning to tone the volume down in a way that is not upsetting the child. Working on personal space. We got that whole 3 to 6 feet, people being 3 to 6 feet away during COVID. Honestly, I feel like that's just a good personal bubble anyway. I love my 3 to 6 feet. It's appropriate depending on the situation. Let them know that people have personal space. They have their bubble. It's not polite to get up in people's faces, but also when to know when your child's personal space is being invaded and how they can communicate that in an appropriate way. Conduct expectations, again, in public places, depending on the place, depends on the culture, depends on how you should act there. I've seen more and more just blatant disregard for this by people of all ages, and I don't know if that's a uniquely American thing or not. But definitely there are conduct expectations in public places, and we need to teach our children how to do that and model it for them, because obviously we are not doing a great job of that. And then emotional regulation. How do I calm myself down? How do I work with my feelings? How do I know this is a feeling that's okay to have, but I can't act out in this way? These are all social emotional learning skills. I absolutely agree with the parents who think it should be taught at home, but it has to be taught in the schools too, or it would just continue to be chaos. So please don't be turned off when you hear that term, social and emotional learning. How children learn how to play. This is a big one for little ones, learning how to share. Believe it or not, a 4-year-old, most of the time, their brains aren't wired to share. How many times do we make 4-year-olds share? It's a concept that is built up to. You can't just throw a kid out there and expect them to be sharing public materials or classroom materials or even their own materials at a whim. They learn how to play by themselves first. They learn how to play moving on to shared experiences and materials, like playground time. We're all using the same gym equipment. We're all playing with the same balls and, a general activity. We're sharing the same chalk bucket. We're working with the same blocks in the classroom. We're pulling from the same pile of books. That's still kind of solo play, but you're sharing the experience and materials generally with a wide audience. Then you go on to parallel play. That means little Johnny is playing next to little Beth, and little Beth wants to play with little Johnny's truck, and Johnny gives her a truck. They're using the same kind of materials, not necessarily sharing what they have. They're not necessarily interacting with each other, but they're playing next to each other, doing the same kinds of things. That's parallel play. And then we get on to interactive play, playing with the same things, shared materials, board games, cooperative play, sharing. Those all come a little bit later than preschool. So when your child is having a hard time doing that, please keep that in mind. Oftentimes we expect so much of little brains that they're just not wired for, they're not ready for yet. That's not to say that they can't or won't learn when you want them to, but it's going to be difficult just depending on a case-to-case basis, depending on your child. You may absolutely be able to teach a 3-year-old how to share. I know adults who don't know how to do that. So it depends on the environment. It depends on the child's tolerance, and then just working up to those types of experiences. All right, another area to get into that's vital to a lot of these other academic skills you may be wanting to teach your child to get ready for school. We're going to look at motor skills, which is fine and gross motor. That means movement, moving those muscles, sensory skills, and functional skills. If you're going to be successful in a school environment or in sustained activities, you're going to need these skills. The goal is going to be to increase strength in your muscles, coordination, and adaptive and functional life skills. That is always the goal when you're talking about any of these things. You want to increase these skills for your child, increase them in a way that's developmentally appropriate so they can stack on what they've been learning and then continue to absorb and use those skills on a regular basis. So when we're talking about fine motor, that means small muscles. Muscles in your fingers, muscles in your hands. That's all really I can think about at the moment for fine motor. So some fantastic at home or at school daycare activities to do for fine motor strengthening. You can learn to use finger painting, pinching Play-Doh and clay. Really any kind of pinching activities are fantastic. Writing with crayons, doing finger plays, Itsy Bitsy Spider went up the water spout. You're learning American Sign Language, letters, numbers, basic signs. That's a fantastic sensory, functional, and motor skill all in one. Using scissors, holding them correctly. There are different kinds of scissors for young children that you can look into if you're worried about them hurting themselves. There's all kinds of safety and adaptive scissors for children who can't hold regular scissors due to disabilities. And then, oh man, this is the big one. Buttons, fasteners, tying shoes, holding utensils, and feeding yourself. Those are those functional skills that we really saw lacking when I was teaching preschool. Obviously in the special needs classroom, it's a little bit different, but even in the regular ed classroom, we had to spend a couple weeks learning how to tie shoes and learn how to do those things. Not saying that your 4-year-old doesn't know how to do that. It's a very difficult skill to learn how to tie shoes. I don't remember her learning, and you may take years on it sometimes. But those are those functional life skills that truthfully we just don't have time for at school. And you got to tie the shoe, you got to eat at lunch. So we take personal time out or maybe push aside things that we need to be working on in order to teach those functional skills that ideally could be taught at home, or taught with a daycare, taught with a babysitter, anybody who's around that child. I know that we have them 6-7 hours of the day, but by the time you get to kindergarten, in the US at least, there's no time to tie shoes. There's no time in the day to schedule for tying shoes. So it's vitally important. And then again, too, even with special needs students, I hate to say that I taught a student who, not for disability, or lack of ability to learn was just not taught how to use a spoon. He finger food and grasped everything. He was 6 years old. That's not developmentally appropriate, and it didn't have to do with the disability. It just had to do with lack of, I don't want to teach you how to do this because you're bucking against me. You're screaming at me. I'm not a parent, but my brother was special needs, and he was made to do things he didn't want to do all the time. But now he's a functional human, mostly. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. Those basic life skills that you need fine motor strength to work on. Lacing boards are fantastic. If you can get a lacing board or a book that's got laces, buttons, zippers, Velcro on it, that's a fantastic way to do fine motor functional skills at the same time. And we've got an additional section here on motor, sensory, and functional skills just because it is such a large and vital category. In my professional opinion, working with children, these things you got to have them do, and they're beneficial for all students. Gross motor, where you're talking about big muscles, biceps, back, core, legs. We're talking about crawling and rolling if you're a baby. We're talking about skipping, running, hopping around. We're talking about playground activities and games like basketball, baseball, sports, foursquare, jump rope, hopscotch, classic playground games, ball play. Even something as simple for babies as rolling a ball back and forth while they're learning how to sit up straight. That's a fantastic activity for gross motor for babies, and it helps them to grow. It really does. That is a fantastic activity for babies. I'm sorry. I love teaching babies. Dancing, yoga, all of these are fantastic ways to get moving, to get active. They can be done inside, outside. You can even get your arms moving in the car and have a little dance party in the car if you're driving. There are so many ways to engage your muscles. It is literally impossible not to do something. These are fantastic activities for children. Some additional functional skills, like I said, making sure that you can use utensils, making sure that you can dress yourself. We're talking about pouring liquids. That's very useful in, a kitchen setting, which they're going to have to learn how to cook at some point. Basic toileting and hygiene, not necessarily getting them potty trained, but yes, potty training, knowing how to wipe correctly, knowing how to brush their teeth, knowing how to bathe themselves correctly. These are all things that you can teach young children and then do it as appropriate. You don't leave a baby or a 2-year-old unattended in the bath. I get that. But you can still teach them how to do these things while you're doing these everyday activities. Small household chores. Please teach your child some small household chores. There is a fantastic slide that I will share at the end of this video, link at the end of this video, about where you can appropriate activities from 2-year-olds all the way up to 18. There are lots of things that it is going to benefit your child to learn how to do. I learned how to do sorting my own laundry and putting it in the wash, sorting dishes and setting the table or unloading the dishwasher and making a sandwich, how to bathe myself. These are all things a 7-year-old should probably know how to do, even if they can't do them by themselves. And it is vitally important that we teach young people how to do these functional things. We need to teach our little boys how to cook and do laundry. We need to teach our little girls how to change the tire and check the oil. I know those are teen activities, but still, we have to share this responsibility of things that we are doing. So teaching your child and giving them household chores as they are developmentally appropriate is one of the most fantastic things I could recommend. And yes, I did not like it sometimes, but I know how to do basic things that are required for living. And you can start young. And then just exposure to community experiences, taking them out as often as you can to the library, to the grocery store, to the playground, to the doctor's office, to visit a friend that's not theirs, engaging them and being out in the community, being used to being around people, being used to different varying expectations of behavior. These are all really things that need to be worked on with young children. Knowing when it's okay to run and when it's not, knowing when it's okay to get loud and when it's not. All of these activities are sensory because they engage different and multiple senses. I just can't express how important it is to get your child to learn these things. And I'm not saying it wouldn't be a struggle. but just do it every day, little bit by little bit, and you will actually have a functional little human that is eager to learn new things all the time. Brief engagement on learning the arts. The arts can be incorporated into everyday life as well as using intentional guided activities and experiences. When I say intentional, that's okay, let's sit down and paint this. Let's sit down and put this together. Let's go to do this thing. Those are intentional experiences. But truly, you can incorporate the arts and awareness of the arts into everyday life. Oh, listen to this song. Did you know that that's one of the arts? you know, doing drawing activities, Play-Doh activities on the daily, exposing your child to poetry and to rhymes, nursery rhymes and songs, poetry. That's a great thing just to be able to listen to even from birth, because their ears are going to be attuned to hearing language and to hearing the sounds of the native language or multiple languages if you're teaching your child bilingual. They'll be able to recognize those patterns so that when they get to those types of activities in school, they won't be so foreign if you're bringing attention to these natural patterns and these natural art experiences within your everyday activities. Cooking is an art. Bring up the colors, bring up the smells. It is absolutely an art form. And when you're done, there's a finished project and you get to eat it. How cool is that? So yeah, there's so many ways you can experience the arts. You want to provide a wide exposure of experiences for your child, but if you notice that your child is very interested in something, go with it, run with it, let them have those experiences, and they may drop that interest or they may pursue it into a career. But always, always, always encourage the arts. My earliest memories with the arts, and I homeschooled for most of my thing, I just remember watching Bob Ross, the painter on TV, and I'd break out my little notebook and draw in color what he was doing. It's the arts. Little things like that. Absolutely. You can do all kinds of things with your child to invoke a love of the arts. And let's just face it, without the arts, without music, books, art, just to look at movies, sculptures, I mean, how boring would our life be? So absolutely, absolutely, absolutely delve into the arts, and you can do that just about every day in a variety of ways. These last few slides will delve into maybe some more of the academics that you're looking for preparing for school. We'll first look at language and literacy, some very appropriate things that you can do with young children starting from a young age. Book handling and concepts of print, how to handle a book. We hold it like this, not upside down. We read from left to right. We turn the page like this. This is the beginning of the paragraph. This is where the talking ends. These are the pictures. Just going over and pointing out those features of print. If your child points out a letter or a word, oh, that's my name. Oh, those are the letters in your name. Just getting them excited about book handling, reading those books, and listening. You can do that from day one. They have books for babies. They're called board books. They have waterproof books. I absolutely, please read to your child, even if you're pregnant. Read to your child. Let them hear you read in the womb. Put the music, put the audiobook to the womb. There's so much research on reading to young children from birth. I just can't express. That is the one thing every teacher everywhere cannot recommend enough. Read to your child every night, even if it's just for 5 minutes. The more the better. 30 minutes a night is like the golden number for some reason. Every night. That is the biggest predictor to success in school, is reading every night with your child. Please do that. Environmental print, that refers to symbols of stores like in restaurants, like, oh, that's the McDonald's sign. Oh, that's the Kroger symbol. Oh, that's the Sonic. Food labels. Oh, those are Cheerios. Your 2-year-old might not be able to read that it's Cheerios, but they know that that combination of words, that symbol means Cheerios. So that would be environmental print. Street signs, recognizing the patterns of stop signs, recognizing the patterns of the words on your street, the letters and numbers on your house. Those are very basic ways to get involved with environmental print that is both functional and appropriate. You can manipulate those letter sounds, like we said, with singing nursery rhymes, choral reading activities, that is reading, you read, I read, you repeat after me, you read with me. Doing songs, letters and sounds in their name, identifying and exposing them to letters. Expose them as early as you want. but please do it with manipulatives, like, magnets, little letter magnets, little letter pieces. Please do not hand your 2-year-old a worksheet or a flashcard. I will get you. um, Anyway, again, identifying, writing, or spelling their first name. If you can get them to repeat and spell their name for you, even if they don't necessarily understand what that means. This is how you spell your name. Oh, that way if somebody asks them, what's your name? How do you spell it? Even if they can't write it down yet. That's very useful information to know. If you're looking on getting started with identifying letters, whenever I would start a school year, little Johnny didn't know any letters. All right, we're starting with the letters in your name. The letters in your first and last name. Those are the most important, I guess, because they're most relevant. You need to learn all the letters. I highly stress learning sounds over letters because sounds hold the meaning. It doesn't matter if little Johnny knows what an L looks like if he doesn't know that that letter says O. Please teach sounds with the letters, not just you have to know your letters, because you can know all 52 of those letters by the time you go to school, but if you can't do anything with that knowledge, it's going to be useless when it comes to reading. So please, 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 I emphasize learning those letter sounds over alphabets first, but you can also do it together. Together is the best way, in my opinion. But you can manipulate the sounds in songs long before you ever show them a letter. And then again, daily reading time with a grown-up. The most important thing you can do to help your child prepare for school is to read with them every day. And I decided to group math and science skills together because they often go together. And especially when we're talking about young children, everything is done with your hands. It's very sensory. So I like to group math and science together. Anyway, some very basic things that you can do at your house, just depending on what you have in the house. You can do lots of sorting activities, color, size, and shape. Like I said, getting them to sort laundry colors, even if you don't sort your laundry to wash, you can still have them sort it as an everyday math activity. We're sorting. These are all the same color. Talking about size and shape, maybe unloading, loading the dishwasher, practically. If they've got a big toy collection, all right, well, let's put all the square-shaped toys together. Let's put all, the blue toys together. That would be a good sorting activity. Size, again, with the laundry. Maybe you've washed the laundry. You can have your child sort clothing based on his size. Maybe just have them find their clothes. Sort my clothes, everybody else's clothes. That's a great activity, and it makes them think about what they're doing. Classifying is really kind of in the same category. It just depends. I use the term sorting for color, shape, and size. I personally use the term classifying for animals, textures, function, and more complex sorting activities. For instance, put the things that you wear on the top half of your body in a different spot than the things that you put on the lower half of your body. That'd be a classifying activity. Function, okay, shirts are for wearing, and forks are for eating. That would be sorting on function. Different kinds of animals. All right, let's put the mammals in this group. Let's put the insects in this group. Or let's put farm animals here and ocean animals here. Those are all different types of classifying activities. That is a math and a science skill. You have to be able to have those skills to do math functions. Same thing with patterns. Identifying patterns. It is a pretext for doing math functions like addition and subtraction. I don't know why so many curriculums have dropped patterns out of their requirement for kindergarten, but I don't see it a lot, and it's a skill that they're lacking if they haven't gone to preschool. So if you can work on them with patterns and noticing differences, those I Spy books are fantastic. I'm pretty sure that's what made me OCD is going through those I Spy books. Where's Waldo? Very, very good way to get your eyes to focus in search of something that's out of place. Patterns in nature, noticing patterns in nature. When the colors change on the leaves, oh, well, that snake has these 3 colors. That zebra has a black and white stripe. Kitty cat's got orange spots. Those are noticing patterns in nature. Oh, you have a shirt that has, red and white polka dots on it. Or your jersey has got stripes on it. Those are noticing patterns in nature. Then you want to get into doing intentional pattern activities. These are the ones we get into in the classroom. copying, extending, and creating patterns of all kinds. I have packets for this on my website if you're interested or need to know more about making patterns. I've referenced the kinds of patterns here, A, B, A, B, B. These are just ways to keep track of what kind of pattern it is. For example, AB would be like blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. ABC might be, square, circle, triangle, square, circle, triangle. It may seem really simple and really kind of silly, but these are the pretexts to learning math, learning 1 plus 2 plus 3, learning 1 plus 1. It's a precursor to learning that. So make sure that you're doing patterning activities. When I say copying, can you make what I make? Can you make the same thing that is right here? Can you copy my friendship bracelet? Can you make the same pattern that I made with my crayon? Extending is making the pattern longer, and obviously creating patterns is making their own spontaneously. You just walk up and little Johnny's got a block tower of a pattern that he did all by himself. That's creating a pattern. That's the highest level that you're looking for developmentally. That means that they are ready to perform the more complex math functions of kindergarten and first grade. And then using all of your senses to identify and describe shapes and colors, attributes of physical objects. We're talking about temperature, feel, taste, all that kind of stuff. And then to engage their curiosity, get them engaged, get them interested. Math and science is not boring unless you make it boring. We were taught boring math. Math can be hands-on all the time. Algebra is hands-on. If you make it, cooking, baking an oven, making two things at the same time, that's algebra. Some of these things are just very simple. And if we can just get them curious and get them interested, willing to use their senses to make these observations, to learn, that's really going to get them ready for school. When they have to do activities that are maybe less interesting, they're still going to be interested in looking for those quality activities. And wrapping it up, as I've gotten really long-winded here, more math and science skills. These need to be taught before kindergarten. If you don't have your child enrolled in preschool, they're going to be behind. Please, please, please get them in some kind of preschool, whether it's homeschool, public school, around the corner, a quality preschool, not watching TV and coloring all day. Sorry, tangent. Rote counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 in a row, 1, 2, 3, that's rote counting, as high as they can go. Preschool, I would say appropriate up to 20 to 30. Some kids could go up to 100, which in my state would have been a kindergarten skill. So just getting them to count as high as they can, anytime, all the time. 1-to-1 correspondence, that means one item means one item. 1 marker. 2 markers, that's what 1-to-1 correspondence means, not this is 1. That's important for them to be able to identify those numbers and count out the corresponding number of objects. Little Johnny, here's a number 6. Can you please give me 6 things? Oh, little Johnny, I see you have a group thing. How many do you have? I have 1, 2. Okay, can you find the number 2? Fantastic preschool activities for counting and identifying numerals. And then sequencing events, first, next, last. First there was an egg, then it cracked, then the chick came out. Ordinal positions, kind of similar, but more like you were first place in line, you're second place in line, you're third place in line. Those are very important things, especially the sequencing of events. If you've seen any of my other videos, I recommend having a daily schedule for your child or in the classroom. Sequencing events is important to preventing meltdowns, to preventing tantrums. If the child knows what's going on in their day, they're less likely to act out and be compliant to what you need them to do. But they can't know what's going on in their day if they don't know how to sequence what comes first, next, and last. That's very basic time skills. If they are old enough, you want to expose them to money. I don't have this on here. Please teach your child how to use money. I don't know why we don't teach this very often in schools anymore, but please teach them. Please teach them how to use money. Thank you. In summary of a very long-winded presentation, most early learning activities can be done throughout the day in natural interactions. You can plan 1 or 2 intentional experiences a day to learn or practice a new skill. I can't tell you how vital that's going to be to preparing for school. building up resilience, building up that attention span, which I didn't even touch on attention span. Oh my gosh. Learning how to tie the shoe, even if it takes you a year, building persistence. You got to build those intentional experiences for your child to be ready for school. If all you've done with them is sit on the couch and watch TV and go to the park every now and then, they're not going to know how to react when they get to school. Or if you're not giving them to public school when they get to a public place, you've got to teach them every day. Teach them something new. Give them a chance to practice a social skill, a motor skill, whatever it is. You've got to plan those activities in order to grow. And then please make them developmentally appropriate. It is not developmentally appropriate to have your 4-year-old sitting at a desk for 4 hours doing worksheets. The average child's attention span is only a minute or two more than their age. So if you have a 5-year-old, their attention span might be 6 minutes. I've seen this in the classroom. Think about it myself. I'm 34. If I'm going to spend time on a sustained activity, usually after about 30-40 minutes, I'm tuckered out. My brain is done. This is science. This is science. It is science. Please choose a developmentally appropriate activity. They will enjoy it. They will learn more. Their brains will remember. Please expose them to work, school activities. It's okay to have them trace their name and trace some shapes here and there so that they learn and can know how. It's a great fine motor activity, but it is not appropriate for a 6-year-old to be sitting in a desk for 6 hours a day at school doing worksheets and analyzing and reading and writing essays. That's my tangent for the day. Thank you very much. Worksheets do not grow dendrites. Please check that book out if you're a teacher. I absolutely love it. If you made it this far, thank you again for your attention. Again, my name is Ashley Nix Lindsley. I have a bachelor's in early childhood education and a master's degree in early learning and development of young children's special needs. You can check out my website at mobileteacherscorner.square.site. I do sell teaching packets as well as other variety of activities and offer consulting for teachers, parents, and students. You can email me at mobileteacherscorner@duck.com, and you can also follow me on Facebook at Mobile Teachers Corner. Thank you so much. If you have any suggestions for my next presentation, please leave me a comment. Have a good day.